It's just satisfaction for instructors, sorry. Anyway, introduction of the introduction. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to speak about principle of context, because in my opinion, this is the core of the rule book. Everybody of us knows that wheelchair basketball is a game of contact. It's not volleyball, it's not checkmate, it's not chessmate, sorry, is a game of contacts. And what is more important for a referee to understand what is legal or not legal, especially in basket, when after 5 personal fouls, the player cannot stay more inside of the game. So I think the principle of contact is really the most important, in my opinion, of course, but the most important and fascinating also argument that we can speak about. And where are our references? The references are all inside of the rule book, of course, and especially in Article 33. I must give credits also to my friend Ross Dewell from Australia that made a big work realizing a book in his first edition in 2011, and the actual edition is now in 2022, that is speaking about principle of context. This was revised by IWBF Technical Commission, and so it's possible to use also for our clinics. I said everything is in Article 33, and this is the index of Article 33. You can see, reading with me, that there's a lot of arguments inside of Article 33. The cylinder, principle of verticality, legal guarding position, guarding a player who controls the ball, guarding a player without the ball, crossing the paths, time and distance, screening legal and illegal, charging, blocking, contacting an opponent with hands or arms, illegal guarding from the rear, holding, pushing, fake being fouled, and crossing the path. We will focus today in some definitions that are very important in the beginning, because as in all the rule books, we can read the content, of course. We can see the definition that is using some special terms, but we need to go inside of the specifics to understand well what is written in the rule book. So first of all, we must understand a simple thing, that a player in wheelchair cannot stop immediately. If he decides to stop, he cannot do it immediately. If a player in a wheelchair decides to stop, he needs more time than a running player. A running player can decide to stop, and if he's quick or not so quick, anyway, the result is an immediate stop. It's not possible for a wheelchair basketball player. And so we have to go to enter this situation and to understand what a player needs to stop. And so, come back, I was running. This is the definition of Article 33.3, that is legal guarding position. And the article says that a defensive player has established a legal guarding position when he has covered the path, when he established a position in the path, when the path of the player, sorry. And so we need to define the path of the player. And Okay, use these. So if we were in the clinic, I will ask to you before showing the pictures. In your opinion, what is the definition of the path? When we speak about covering the path, we need that a player go in front or in real, because it's not important the direction of the player moving. But what we need to cover? We need to cover the path, okay? How wide is the path? And in my experience as instructor, I received a lot of answer, not even correct, because someone said, okay, the path is the chair, including the wheels. So we need so much space to cover the path, but it's not true. It is wrong. I need to understand that the path is defined by the seat. The seat is different chair by chair. We can have a big seat, we can have a narrow seat, but anyway, is a definition that is good for every chair, because every chair has a seat, and if we are lucky, there are also some tubulars that are coming down the seat and designing for us what the path is. But the definition is the area between the parallel lines drawn from each side of wheelchair seat in the direction that the chair is traveling. So the width of the player's path equals of the width of the seat of the player's chair. So when we need to cover the path, is enough to cover the projection of the seat. I think is easy. It's not important the direction of the wheelchair. We can wheel toward the basket, or we can be in a wheel in a back wheel movement. Anyway, we have a movement from the chair, from the player in the chair, and it is or with the ball or without the ball, we will see later. But anyway, we have the path for every different player. So we understand what is a path, and we understand that a wheelchair basketball player has no chance to stop immediately. So we have to introduce another concept in addition to the path. But we use the path for defining this new concept. If I need to stop, I need to do it in a space, and this space is called braking area. Someone has the
Mubarka, please, can you mute yourself?
Mahmoud, you are in charge for muting someone else. You can do it.
I will do. If she didn't do, I will do.
You can do it, but no problem. It happens.
Okay, I will do anything you need. She is mute now. Okay, so sorry for that.
Braking area. Braking area is the space that is necessary for the wheelchair to stop. And the immediate question is, okay, and what is the definition of braking area? Is measured, is 1 meter, 2 meters, or similar. We use the chair that is the one that need the braking area to define the braking distance. And we say that if the wheelchair basketball player is moving slowly, he needs just one chair length to stop. If he's moving not slowly, but quickly or very quickly, 2 is enough. So we cannot count more than 2 chair lengths for a player that is moving quickly for stop. So we have the path in front of the, in this example, in front of the wheelchair. The braking area, because we assess that we need 2 wheelchair basketball at maximum, and then decide if the player is quick or not. And so look at this picture that is very exhaustive. We have the braking area that is inside of the path and is wide as the path, but long, 1 or 2 chair lengths. It depends of quickness of the player. After this, we can think about what the player needs to stop. Because anyway, when we have a player with the ball, he needs to manage the chair and also to manage the ball. So we use this term that is not politically correct, but is clear, that the person in wheelchair that has to manage the ball has more difficult than the other, is more handicapped to stop the wheelchair, because he needs 2 hands to stop the wheelchair and also 2 hands to take secure the ball. So this is why we have a straight difference between FIBA and IWBF respect time and distance, because the principle of time and distance is valid for the player with the ball, and in FIBA is the opposite. The player with the ball is ready to be defended also at the last minute. In wheelchair basketball, the player with the ball had more duties than the player without the ball, because one of these duties is to keep time and distance to avoid contact or stopping or changing direction. So back again to the definition of braking distance. This is another picture that is good. We have 2 chairs, braking distance and path. The braking distance is the shortest distance that a moving wheelchair needs to be able to stop. The distance needed to stop depends upon the speed that the wheelchair is traveling before braking. So the braking distance is never more than 1 chair if the player is moving slowly, or 2 chairs if the player is moving quickly. In this presentation, I will focus the same argument more than 1 time, come back and back again, and annoy you everybody, but I don't care about this. I want to close the presentation with all the basic concepts fixed. So keep attention looking new pictures, but it's all the same before, nothing new. So the braking area, braking distance, 1 or 2 chairs, 1 chair. Who decided how much is big the braking area? Is the chair that is moving. If I have a big one, I need 2 chairs, but the same chairs that are moving. So don't forget, this is the unit of measure of braking area and braking distance. The chair that is moving, 1, slow, 2, quick, 2, also if it's moving very quick in a fast break or similar, no problem. Then Another basic definition is, we know which is the path. Okay, I don't want you to repeat. If I will be the clinic, I will ask to someone of you, Lucky, please tell me which is the path. But okay, the path is the imaginary line drawn in front of the wheelchair moving. Okay, what happens if two wheelchairs are moving in the same direction or in crossing direction? Is different. If they're moving in crossing direction, there's a moment in their movement that they will meet on the court. And this is this red point. In the definition of the rule book, when we speak about convergent path, we assume that they move straight toward their destination. So no curve, no change in direction, but I want to reach this red point. I want to go there. The same my opponent, want to reach the same point, want to go here. So crossing path is this situation when two opponents are moving toward the same point without changing direction. What happens? That they crash in the red point, of course. And imagine that the red point is a ball point, because nobody has the ball and I want to catch the ball before my opponent. So they are running to catch the ball and they're running straight. This is a situation of convergent path. I think it's clear. Faye, you can add anything you want, but probably I am annoying you as I am annoying all the rest, but I'm speak and speak and speak all the same. These
So
are,
actually, yeah.
yes, please.
So what the Google says is the definitions. It's really important to have this kind of, definition in your mind before we start to thinking about who's supposed to be take a responsibility for the contact, because those this definition is very important factor, very important issues. You have to think about it, because in different kind of situation that will be apply different principle. So it's really important to clarify each different definitions, especially the conversion path, and that's really important thing, because for the conversion path, that means no one changed the direction. So that will go into the next one for Google. He will talk about the crossing path. That's the different things about this. So I know it's difficult for everyone to listen so many definitions, but actually the things is really, really important.
Thank you. And back again. Straight, no change of direction. They start in crossing direction also. Crossing the path. What happens when we read this definition? Crossing the path occurs when two players start approximately in parallel lines. So I remember Norbert Kuchera when he tried to explain this in a clinic, and he said, okay, imagine two chairs, two bigas, because we were in Rome. So the ancient Rome, imagine two bigas, they are moving parallel, and they start and they make all the turn of the earth. They're running all around the earth. What happens? Nothing, because they are moving parallel. So they are passing again from the starting point, and nobody touched the opponent because they're moving parallel. And they continue and pass again. and they continue and pass again. But something happens. Then something happens. What happens? Oh, there's a crash. Why? Because someone changed his direction. And so, what is important to know? First of all, we don't have to focus the crash, but we have to know how it was started. So if they were parallel and something happens later, someone change his direction. I need to know all the movement from the beginning to the end. This is very important. This is just to make the definition, because we need all the definitions that are inside Article 33 before starting the clinic in some specific situations. This, you can imagine two players that are approximately parallel. So one player decides to move because he realized that he's going toward the basket, but the basket is not in front of him. The basket is just on the left. So if he will continue this direction, is not good for making a good shot with high percentage. So he decides to move to the basket. But for doing that, he needs to pass through the path of the opponent. And so this is a situation of crossing the path. They are parallel, and then someone decides to move. Later, we will decide who was legal and who was not, if was possible or not. Now, just for the definition. More than the definition, we have a visual help, if you want. Because if you are looking to the wheelchair from sideline, if you see an imaginary 8 that is drawing in your head, put this 8 infinity. What do you want? But think that if you see an 8 that is drawn by the two big wheels of the opponents, the red one and the blue one in this example, we have a good situation for changing direction, and so for crossing the path is good. A player can legally change the direction and begin to cross when the axle, we speak about the near side axle, that is the axle that is from the side of the opponent. This is the axle, and the axle in this example is advanced respect to the wheelchair basket to the wheelchair, sorry, of the opponent, and this is the part of the wheelchair that is more protruded. So in simple, forget the definition. When I am so in front respect to the opponent that my axle is more protruded than the rest of the wheelchair, I can start to move. I can start to cross, but I must do it in a smooth way, not suddenly. Please write this in your paper. Suddenly. You will find this in the questions. And when you look suddenly, too suddenly, you think about this is the wrong situation. If you find suddenly, put it on the paper. And look another picture to understand what we are speaking about. This is better than the rest, and it is the blue chair that is in front of the red chair. It is completely in front, not only the axle, but almost also the big wheels. Okay, this is a situation when a player can begin to cross the path. We don't have to make difference between a player with the ball or a player without the ball. This is the definition for crossing the path that is good for every kind of player. So, again, look first at the picture, then to the photo, please. This is an example. Gold 5 has her axle in front of the horizontal bar of the green 5. So it's legal to start moving. So she decides to change direction. They are parallel, and start to understand also these kind of pictures. When you look an arrow on the back on the wheelchair, it is for a moving wheelchair. So this is a wheelchair that is moving. This is the direction of the move, of course. This is the ball possession. Also, number 5 green is moving, and turn direction and do it in a legal way, because the line of axle is in front of the other wheelchair. Okay, now pass from the picture to the photo. Is the same. Number 5 gold, number 5 green. Imagine that before this clip, before this snapshot, they were parallel, and that this is what happens. She turns and she's in the back. And this is good to introduce the, please don't take the snapshot, but look at the entire field. That is a definition for the next appointment with Faye and the new IoTs, sorry. Then we can cross also in an illegal way. When? Of course, when he decides to cross too early. So, is easy example. This is not so advanced respect to the other player. So if number 4 decide to move, he decide to move in a wrong way. So legal movement, illegal movement. We can also have a legal movement from the start, this, but not legal if he decide to move too suddenly. Remember these words. So too suddenly is not possible, but the start of the action is correct. Now, also the start of the action is not correct because it was not so advanced to make this movement. So, remember, the player who crossed the path must allow the opponent time and distance to avoid the contact. Enter the spirit of the rule. Think about the rule. Why we need to have an axle advanced respect to the wheelchair? Because doing this, the opponent enter in the field of vision of the other player. So a player can realize that something happens, and also that the player that make a legal movement to cross the path, he start moving really, not only because he is he or she is in advance, but is really start moving, and I can realize that I need to do something to avoid the contact. And something is to change my direction smoothly too. So for doing this, I need time and distance. And time and distance is given by this situation, the correct one, when the line of axle is in front of the other wheelchair. Then back to the clips. Of course, red is not so advanced. Red decide to cross. Red make it in a not legal movement. Red is responsible for the contact. We have a nice comment here. You can read with me and says, okay, the rules are the same for all the players, but we understand that the player with the ball need more time to take a decision because he's making his movement and taking attention also to the ball. Compared to the opponent with the ball, a defender without the ball can change the direction immediately because he needs only to put an hand on a big wheel and doing a brake movement. And immediately the wheelchair turn in the direction of the opponent. If I want to do the same, I need to make sure to don't lose the ball. So I need more skill or more time. It depends on the player, of course. We as referee, we must put in our pocket, in our mind, to bring together with us on the court that all these situations are from the player of wheelchair basketball. This is specific to understand who is responsible for what and what is a legal movement or not. So everything is related with the wheelchair. The wheelchair cannot stop immediately. The wheelchair need time and distance to stop. If the wheelchair is slow, more, not so much time, but almost one wheelchair basketball. If the player is moving quickly, more distance, two wheelchair basketball. So we need to respect the player with the ball because it's more difficult to stop. And so don't forget that this is our sport and our sport is based on equity. We must be fair and we must recognize what is specific for wheelchair basketball. It's easy to say, okay, it's a foul because he made a heart on my arm. This is easy. It's not easy to understand what is legal with the footrest, with the wheelchair basketball movement. But there's a lot of contacts in a wheelchair basketball game, and most of contacts are just contacts, not fouls. But we must realize this at first as referee. Then continue with some example or not, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, we must focus here. Back. Oh, sorry, back again. I need to be confident with the mouse. I lost the sharing screen. Sorry, what happens? Are you still looking at the screen or not?
No, no screen.
No, okay. Something happens to Zoom. Sorry, I will recover immediately. Sorry.
Okay, so before Google come back, I just more focus on what Google says. In normal situation, just like Google says, the player with the ball is more disabled. So the player with the ball need more time and need more distance to stop. And what we talk about the crossing path situation is a very specific situation in wheelchair basketball, and they in crossing path situation they apply the special definition, special rules in this kind of situation. So that's really important because if you just see the last contact, actually they will be all the same for the last contact. But if you can recognize it's a crossing situation, then you might have different decisions. So the very important issues is on the court, you must be recognized this is a normal situation or this is a crossing path situation. And what's the difference? The most important key is if two player is in parallel. That means two player, they're going to the same direction, but like Google says, if they two players in parallel, that means they will not have contact unless someone decide to change the direction. But change the direction, that's the thing that at the moment is what that moment we need to decide who must be take responsibility. But the most important is if you can recognize that's a crossing path situation before the contact happen. Otherwise, sometimes we will apply the wrong definition. We will use the normal definition to decide the contact. But actually, if that is a crossing path situation, then we will apply different ways. So Gugu is back.
Yes, yes, I was waiting for you. Okay. We need to understand if they are parallel or not and what they are doing. This is a crossing situation because they started not in a parallel way and they want to go together in the same point. They are pointing here. Is not clear situation from the video, but it's just to let you thinking because these two players made the same contact later in a different way. This was the end was that who reached first the spot on the court has granted a duty. So in this situation, white player was first, then the red one, the black one, and so is a crossing situation. Forget about the contact. So I put the video, but we need also more definitions. Legal defense. We need to make a split between the player who controls the ball and the player who has not the ball. There's a big difference between these situations. And also we can speak about stationary defense or moving defense, because we can do also a legal movement when we are in action, not only in stationary situation. So, definition again. How can a player establish a legal position when his opponent has the ball? We need two simple things. We need to cover the path, or we need to give the opponent the time and distance. That is the duty that Faye said we need more when we have the ball. We have to manage the ball. We have more difficulties to arrange the movement. Also, if the movement is a stop, or also if the movement is for changing direction. Anyway, I have a new duty that is distance and time Otherwise, the defensive player can just cover the path. How? In a right way, that is, I can cover the path moving also in the last time, but because we have this principle, if I had the time to completely cover the path as a defensive player, it means that an offensive player had the same time to arrange to avoid the contact or stopping or moving. So don't forget this. This is speaking about player B and player A, but if a player had the time to cover the path, the opponent player had the time to avoid the contact. So these are the examples of path covered. And this is the scholastic example because red cover completely the path, including the wheel, but is not necessary. We need to cover, so we need to put the wheelchair inside of the path of the opponent in a way that the path is completely covered. So there is no room to move toward. This is okay. So look at the definition. To cover the path refers to the action of a player who positions his chair across the path of an opponent. In which way? So that the chair extends from one side of the opponent path to the other side. It's just moving, entering, covering. These are two situations. In both situations, the paths are covered. So we can say that it's not important in which direction you move. The important is that you move deep enough to cover the path. This is a complete covered path, and this is also a legal movement from the defensive player. So it's a legal guarding position. The path is covered. I can do something different. I can make time and distance to my opponent. What does it mean? It means that I can put myself with my wheelchair inside of the path, but at the distance, so that the player in this example with the ball can look at me and avoid. The distance is to chair lengths, you know, that is the braking distance. I can put my wheelchair in this example out of braking distance, and I don't need to cover completely the path. I'm just entering the path and fixing my position stationary inside of the path of the opponent. So when we start looking, we decide there is enough room to move. No. There is enough space to stop or change direction. Yes, because he entered the path, but he did it at the proper distance. So, like the definition says better to me, a defender can establish a legal position in the path of the player when he's stopping inside of the path, but at the proper distance. This is the example. The distance required for a moving player is according to the speed we know and is defined like braking distance. So we can say that I can not cover completely the path, but I can do it, and making this anyway, I am an obstacle. I am inside of the path. So if the blue player decides to continue toward this path, he make a crash. But now the blue will be responsible for this because the red was inside of the path, but outside of breaking distance. Examples. Very nice pictures, because now we can see which is the seat with the tubulars protruded to the end of the seat, and the path was covered because white player used his switcher to be in front of the external edge of the path. And so also, if we see it and we say, hey, look at this space, it's not covered. Hey, it's not covered the whole wheelchair basket imagine, but the path is covered in this example because we need less space. This is moving backwards, covered. This is moving toward covered. More. It's not important to face the player to cover. We can do this also not facing the player, but we have to add more things. We have to be stationary and so and so and so. We have to enter more later. Anyway, we have a set of 4 photos, and in each photo, the defender has covered the path of the opponent. Every time in a different way. Moving, stationary, from the back, in the front. We have some examples, visual examples of path not covered, because we make the same movement, but we make it in the wrong way. How is it possible? Because number 6 is more skilled than me, is stronger than me. And so when I decide to cover, I start making the decision when it's possible. 2 chairs are here. But when I try to reach the opponent's path, the opponent player was so quick that he arrives first on the spot. So the only thing in this example I can do is to crash from side on my opponent, and so I am responsible for this contact. And this is example of path not covered. And path is not covered also if, look the arrow, the red number 4 is moving inside of the opponent path, is moving inside of the breaking distance. So no chance to win, if pass me the term, no chance to do it in a legal way if I cannot cover complete the path of the opponent. In this example, the red wheelchair is stopping here. And so the path is open, is not completely covered. And so from here to here is the natural prosecution of the movement. This is the crash. The path was not covered. The red player moved into breaking distance and did it in the wrong way. This is just theory. It's not easy to look at this in video. It will be easier using wheelchair and be in presence in Accra. But now we try to do our best to prepare you as best. Also annoying with this kind of videos. So look, be interactive if you want. This has broken fouls. We will speak about the kind of foul later. But in these photos is the same example of the, sorry, is the same example of this. I try to cover the path and I don't do it in the right way. So this is the path, this is not covered, this is responsible. This is the path, this is not completely covered, this player is responsible. So the example is correct, is path not covered. I start before speaking about this. So I can be in a legal position also if I'm not facing the opponent. I can be in a legal position also staying with the opponent on my back, or staying on the back of the opponent. Look, we have to respect a lot of rules anyway. I cannot enter between the big wheels, okay? But if I stay stationary on the back, I am in a legal position of guarding. If I am not facing but back respect to the opponent, this is normal use to try to make a stop, a blocking shot situation. Is easier to do this without the footrest in front of you, that keep a distance between you and the opponent. This is easier to keep a legal position, but be careful, because you have not to intrude the opponent's cylinder. We will speak about this later. Anyway, this is just to let you thinking that we can be legal also, we are not in facing the opponent situation. We can be legal also if we are defending on the back. Remember, we are not in FIBA, so there is not the concept of dead block. This is a block out of the point of view of the opponent, but it's legal. The important that is stationary. Come on. Same type of, this is a way of introducing this contact. The same type of contact, but once is legal and once is not, because this is a contact from side. Side, opponents, direction, contact from side, direction, contact from side. But in this example, Red 8 made a good defense, covered completely the path, and then white player is responsible for the contact. This is a legal defense from side in a direction that is perpendicularly respect to the way of moving the opponent with you. This is the same, but what happens? That he was late, and so not only he didn't cover, but he crashed on the, is an easy call, of course. He crashed on the side, on the big wheel. So when I have a contact from the side, I have to decide if it's legal or not. So take care. Then what happens? We have a situation in this example of a defender that is stationary. Norbert spoke about this like the spider situation. Why? Because if I am stationary, I can stay. And I'm waiting. Like a spider is waiting for a fly. He's waiting for the fly that is passing through in front of his visual, and jump to catch the fly. This is the same. Is stationary, and now he decides to move and crash to the opponent. This is not legal in wheelchair basketball. Because, look, in this example, nobody of the players has the ball. So the definition is who is in a good legal defensive position? The one who arrived first in the spot. This was defined before, and this was good for converging path. So one is going in this direction, the other one is not moving. Who is first in the spot is winning. Not in this situation, because a stationary player must give anyway how can I say in a different word respect to the what you can write. He cannot move and decide to catch the position at the last time, because it's not allowed. Only this. If he suddenly push the front of the chair into breaking area, and so he arrived first in this zone, we are all in the same way. We know that he arrived first, but in this photo, anyway, nobody is correct. Sorry, I'm moving. So it's not easy to speak about this without being in presence, but we can imagine a stationary player. We must say that he cannot decide to move suddenly toward the breaking area of the opponent, also if the opponent is without the ball.
So actually, for this kind of situation, do you recognize this is a wheelchair tripping?
Yes.
This means this is a very dangerous situation in wheelchair basketball. It's more like in able-bodied basketball, someone want to move and I use my feet to trap, to make him fall down. So that will be almost the similar situation in wheelchair basketball. So in these two pictures, you can see that it's all the same principle. If the raid number 4, he want to have a legal guarding position, he must be cover the pass or give time and distance. But you can see the second picture in the bottom. He moved into the brute 6 his pass, but in the breaking distance. That means he didn't give him time and distance. So you can see the picture. The brute 6, he has the ball. If the player with the ball, we must be cover the pass or give time distance. That's why you can see the word beside it. He says, ready for suddenly push into his pass and didn't give him time and distance to stop. So for in this situation, there will be a illegal defense contact, and this kind of contact will be very dangerous.
Yes, the meaning of the picture here is just to let you think about this. So it could be very dangerous if the player, with or without the ball is not important, but if he's traveling very quickly and you realize that you are not able to cover the path, as a defensive player, you must stop. If you decide, I don't want to stop it, I want to make contact anyway, we must take care about this player decision. And we must be careful if the result of the contact could be dangerous and also our call could be an unsportsmanlike foul. Then one question that sometimes is given is, hey, I had the contact, but it's obvious that the path was not covered. Look, this is the seat and this is empty. Hey, don't look at the snapshot, please. Read the entire film. What happens in this situation? Everybody can understand or imagine that my friend Norris moved toward the path of number 8 of Canada, pass, cover complete, but cannot stop. And so, continue moving. Continue moving, but not leave completely the path. So the player with the ball, with his movement, crash, because I was inside of the path, of course. But it's not important to cover the path completely at the moment of the crash. It's important that in my legal movement, I did it. So don't forget to be focused on the start of the defensive player movement. And this is important to decide when the crash occurs, if it was in a legal position or not. We have some type of fouls. I don't know if you want to speak about this now or not. I think we can pass through. There's also another specific movement. We call it pivoting. That is when we use a wheelchair as a focus point, and we fixing this point, move into the path of the opponent in this example. Or anyway, the pivoting movement is just this. From this situation, I fix this. We call in running basketball the foot that make the pearl. I don't know if you have a different definition, but imagine the pearl and try not leaving this. These are separated for having a better picture, but you have to imagine that this is the wheel, and the pivoting movement fix this wheel, turn, and so the wheelchair pass from this point to this one. You can imagine this. In the clinic in presence, we can do it with the wheelchair basketball, wheelchair in present, and it will be easier to understand. But we can start from here to here and stop. Don't forget, I pivot inside the breaking area, inside the path of the opponent, and I stop. So I am stationary when the contact occurs. This is legal. Be careful, because if number 4, do not stop but continue movement, first of all, is not in this example, but is in a diagonal way toward the opponent chair. But anyway, is blocking in a not legal situation because it's moving. So don't forget that this is an example based on a stationary defensive, and this position, legal, can be reached making a pivoting movement. This is the example of the picture. This is what was wrong. It's the same pivoting movement, but is not stationary. It's continuing movement, and so is not legal. So take care not only to the start of the movement, to the beginning, but take care also to the end, if the player is stopping, is stationary or not. Continue. We have two players in this example. And we speak about legal closing the gap. So what happens in this situation? That we have two opponents that decide to cover the path, but nobody of them is doing a complete cover by his own. Only a team movement is covering. So don't forget that the principle of contacts are player versus player. So I need every time to decide if the defensive player is making a legal movement, but not a team movement. So if we will continue, we have more examples later. I don't want to discover my secrets too early, but anyway, don't forget, looking at this example, that principle of contacts are set player versus player. This is very important, especially for situations under the basket. This is the situation of an out of bounds that make me impossible to pass through the opponent because I have not enough space. You know, the wheelchair basketball chairs are 1 meter wide, plus the wheels, they can reach also 1 meter, 20 centimeters. If a clever defensive stays stationary close to the out of bounds with, imagine, 80 centimeters, no more, the question is, can I pass through at the beginning? No, I cannot, because there's not enough room, there's not enough space. Okay, and we said before, hey, take care, because if a stationary player start move, so he lose all the good rights that he had before, and we have to start defining a new positioning and so and so and so. Not in this situation, because in this situation, there are the rights of the defensive player that are fixed. We in Italian as a specific term, so I don't want to use it because it is specific for Italy. But anyway, we have some rights that are assigned. And if I have a right, I can keep my right also if I decide to move. So look at the second example here. Number 7, decide to move. But decide to move inside of the path, okay, we are sure about this, but in a path that was not legal path to pass through, because number 6 blue had not room to pass through from the beginning. So I don't care if I close more. How many times, especially in back wheeling, when you are referring wheelchair basketball, under the basket, I try to pass and crash, and the players say, hey, but he was moving. Yes, sometimes happens. A lot of time happens. To me, happens. And I'm sure that happens to everybody of us. And the answer is, hey, you cannot pass before, you cannot pass now. Nothing changed. He is moving, but he is moving in a narrow way where you cannot pass from the beginning. So please, it's just a crash. You are responsible. You are lucky that I didn't make the call against you. But this is a good example, and it happens. Please try to be in a good position to read this situation before crash happens. So very important when we will speak about mechanics, to have a good point of view, to understand that from the beginning, number 6 has no chance to pass, because yes, he can decide to avoid the contact, but he needs to go out of bounds, and out of bounds is out of rules, is not possible. So this is a wall. Imagine like a wall, and you cannot go inside the wall. You must stay here, but you cannot go toward this direction because there is the defensive player. If you understand this, you are able to decide under the basket when a player is legal, also if he is moving. Again, legal closing the gap. There's a pass to pass, but it depends. We have to look this situation before. But now, if this is the start of the action, they are just positioned inside of the area, the breaking area. Who cares? You cannot go here because you have no room to pass. Sometimes we look to number 6, to such a player that wants to go here because he's stronger than the opponents. He's a big player, he's a strong player. These are 1 point. So he wants to go here to force the room and to pass through anyway. It's not possible. And looking if they are doing this in a legal way, the question is, who was first here? They were first here before starting. So if blue continues to move, is responsible for the contact. More examples. There is enough space, yes. They are late, yes. If they continue moving, they enter the path, but it's too late. The only chance is they cover the path, otherwise they are responsible. Now, from here to here is what happens. Number 6 is quicker than the opponents. So they crash from side. They are responsible. We can imagine that is this situation. And go. And so these are examples of not legal closing the gap. I don't want to read the example. I just want you to think about this. So I want to pass, they want to close, they close together. Is it okay? Their answer is not. It's not okay, because the path is covered, but the rules are player versus player. So if you think number 6 versus number 4, is covered completed? No. Number 6 versus number 7. Number 7 has completely covered? No. So number 7 is responsible. Number 4 is responsible. Number 6 is never responsible in this situation. And now I have a question for the group. Look at this situation. What can I apply? They are moving in such a parallel way, but they are not one close to the other. They are in a long distance. What can I do? Is this a crossing path or a converging path situation? Someone of you can interview and say his opinion. Zophilia, was it for you? I'm looking to you, sorry, but If you want, you can answer. Adam, the same. If you want, you can answer. Nobody wants. Turn on this this microphone, please. Tell me what is your opinion.
So before someone reply this question, and it's really important in wheelchair basketball, you have to recognize what's this question, what's this situation. Then you will apply different definition. So if two player without the ball, the principle will be who be there first. If your defense is someone with the ball, you must have legal guarding position. That means you need to cover the pass or give time and distance. So that's the thinking for this. So now we are going to have the crossing pass situation. That means in this picture, what you saw, what you see this situation, what's the direction for the two player, what's the relationship for these two player. They are conversion or they are parallel. So if they are conversion, that means they will be that means they have to apply the principle of who got because blue 6 has the ball. So that principle will become he must have a legal guarding position, cover the pass or give time and distance. But in this picture, what's the relationship for these two players and what kind of principle they have to apply? So someone could answer this.
And you have a good suggestion here.
I think the blue chess can cross because it has time and distance, and the red have also time to break or change his path.
And what is that determined that is enough to add time and space for changing this direction? You said there's enough time and distance.
Yes.
Yes.
You can change, you can move.
Yes, but we have to fix some points to be sure about this. And the point is that we have to seek for, look, this is the next one that makes a question, no? When does this chance from crossing to converging and when is failed? And is what we are speaking about this. The answer is take the breaking area and put imaginary here. If this distance is enough to have a breaking area here before entering the other breaking area, we have enough time and space to make this change. And if I have enough time and space, I have to change my way of decision. So I have no more to think about crossing the path because it's enough distance to start to have a new starting position. So imagine that now blue is here and they are converging because he's here. But think about was in a middle row, was here. If he starts here, you have no more enough distance. And so we have to ask, can I cross? Because I have no such time and distance. So can I cross moving from this situation? I cannot, because I'm not so in advance respect to the other player. So related to the other player, I am back and I cannot move. But use this help and look at the criteria. For change from crossing path to convergent path, we need to start with parallel drive because without parallel drive, I have no crossing path situation. Change of direction is not enough. I can change direction, staying in crossing the path. So I need more. Here is the solution. More than breaking area away from the opponent. So straight line, because convergent path is possible only if we have two paths in a straight way that are moving one across the other. And so if I have these situations, parallel, change, more than breaking distance, a straight line, the judgment is a convergent path. In no more crossing, but is converging. So we have to be quick to put in our mind that this is no more parallel players, but because there is enough distance, we have to make our decision about convergent path from two players. Now blue is here. We can also have a different situation. We have the same, but less than breaking distance. And so it's not far enough to change the criteria. So I must apply the crossing the path. And if I apply crossing the path, in our example, he failed because was too back for changing direction. Was not possible to make this change of direction. So in extrema synthesis, with the ball crossing the path, I must be in front with my axle, okay? In convergent path, I need to cover the path or outside breaking area to make a legal defensive position for a defensive player against an opponent with the ball in a crossing situation or a converging situation. And without the ball, we said, who cares if I have or I have not the ball? The important is that I am in crossing situation. So I must respect the rule. So I must be in front in every situation. And without the ball in convergent, no, I don't care. I must be on the spot first. So continue converging the path to crossing the path. Is a different example to change of criteria. The beginning of the action before was two parallel wheelchair. This is the parallel wheelchair. We have no more parallel wheelchair. We have a crossing path situation and a decision to cross. So is it legal? This is my question. And we need to seek for criteria. Look to the picture. Someone has the ball? No. Okay. So we have to apply the rule of crossing the path. And we said before that crossing the path, we must be in front, disregarding if you have or not the ball. And so, can I cross here? Where is my axle? Where is the change of direction? Is my axle in front of the opponent? No. And so this is an example of not correct movement. Another point of thinking. Look at the angles. The angles of the impact. If we are at 0, we have no impact. If we have 180, we have no impact. If we have in a situation of 90 degrees, we have a side impact. But anyway, we can use this to look at the angle and make a difference between the situation between 0 and 90 and the situation between 90 and 180. Because if we had a crash in this situation, we can have also a defensive player moving. But if the crash occurs with this open angle situation, more than 90, so the angle is this, from here to here, from here to here, now it's this, from here to here, from here to here. If I have this open angle, I need that defensive player be stationary. This is very important, especially when they are attacking the zone. And we have a defensive player that want to make a facing opponent defensive action. And when there is the crash, is not stationary. So take care about the collision. We can also have the second word kamikaze, that is the head of collision, front to front, face to face. Look. This is this situation. We use the example turning on the picture, you know, they are in the wrong way, but it's important you can see that if I go face to face, before the contact, before the collision, I must stop myself. The other situation with the angle moving is that I can move, and in this example, nobody has the ball. So the important is to stay on the spot first. Who stay on the spot first is who arrives first here in the yellow zone. And I can do it also moving. I can do it moving. I can continue moving. And no, it is not important that I'm a moving player, because the angle is narrow, is between 0 and 90. This is important. The angle is open, and I need to be stationary to avoid to be the responsible of the contact. Especially with the ball. Then another, I hope that it works. Okay. Look here where there is the arrow, and this is easy to understand. That is a crash situation when the contacting player, I cannot stop. Yes, 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 stop. Okay, is trying to cover the path, is in line, but is not stopping the wheelchair. So of course he is responsible for the contact, because is not able to take care about the contact, is leaving the wheelchair free, so he is responsible for this contact. Look, no hands on the wheel, no chance to say, hey, referee, I was stationary. Not possible. It's stupid. It's showing that the hands are up. It's not the right way. That's continue. Now you can judge if you want to be interactive. But I do this. When there is a screening situation, we have to think about the situation, because it's not enough to say, hey, 2 players without the ball. So the important thing is to be first in the spot. Yes, 1 against 1. But this is the couple of players that I'm judging. And this is an help from this player that is moving. So it's not enough to say who was the first in the spot, but because it's a blocking situation, screening situation, to avoid the responsibility, number 5 blue must be stationary. Otherwise, it's not a legal contact. And especially because if you think about the angle, this is an open angle situation. So if I want to be on my right, I need to be stationary. Another interesting situation, if it works. I want to do too much things. In this clip, first of all, no more audio. Okay. Then look at the clip. A lot of things are happening, and there's a lot of situations that are legal guarding position, because nothing really happens, but we have a lot of players that are crossing one in front of the other path in a legal way. Look, this is legal, this is legal, this is legal, this is legal. And let them move. The couple of players are changing, still legal, just the contact. Then we have a start. Have you seen? We have a crossing pass situation. Nothing happens. Everything is legal. Not till the end, of course. But this is the normal quickness of a high-level basketball game in wheelchair. So take care here. And this is the screening situation we said before. But anyway, look at how many situations are here. Look at this. Legal. Stationary. He recovers and starts. Change the couple of defensive player. Move and effort this player to change direction because was legal covered. So focus here. Focus here. Focus here. We have 3 referees and a lot of situations we have to focus down and continue. Legal movement, fast break. He missed the contact. He passed. This was legal. He passed the path. But nothing happens because was not crash. He come back. He complete the path. But this is a contact and not a collision. So we don't make the foul, but just referee the contact. He's defensive player here. moves, cover from far, not crash, nothing happens, and continue again. Start. All the players are moving in a defensive, legal way. Nothing happens, but all the referees need to move to understand this. Then we have the situation that was not covered in the right way. So, Adam, turn on the microphone, please. If you want, please help me. Die, come on. Adam, I'm waiting. I want you.
Unmute yourself, Adam.
Adam is okay. You have no, okay. The microphone is on. So let's check this situation to understand together. We start reading this situation. What can you say about this? First of all, there is enough space. Adam.
Yeah,
Voice.
I wanted to finish what you're about to ask.
Okay, not the best microphone in the city, but I understand. Okay, there is enough space to pass. Okay. Which kind of player is this? Is a dribbler player as the ball. This is the player with the ball. Youssef, where are positioned the defensive player?
I think there's no space to pass.
Yes. Where are positioned the red players?
Red?
Are outside of the path.
Yes, they are outside. Yeah.
Also at a proper distance, because
Yes.
our breaking area ends here.
Yes,
So,
they are
and this
outside of the box.
I know that in the court is different, but we start looking to the picture and then we try to do it on the court, but we start there. So we have to look first of all if the situation is with the ball or without the ball. Why? Because we have to assess if the player needs time and distance or not. You know, we said before, the player with the ball has the most difficulties because he has to manage the wheelchair and the ball. So he has a right in addiction that is time and distance. So situation with the ball, okay. Then there is gap. Can he pass here? Remember the wall before. He cannot pass. Now he can pass, okay. Other point, where is the breaking distance? Here. So everything is okay. Situation with the ball, breaking distance and gap. And then where are positioned the defensive player? Look at the arrow on the back on the wheelchair. They are moving. So they are deciding to move. So looking at this picture without my arrows, I can say 4 things. Blue, ball. So situation with the ball. Enough gap. Breaking distance respected, and the players are deciding to move, are not stationary. Okay. Let's continue. Second picture. Adam, what happens?
On this situation, blue 6, he had two chest distance for him to either stop and pass the ball.
Okay.
But now on this situation whereby blue 6 had a ball and then he wanted to penetrate between red 4 and 7. In this way, on this situation, if blue 6 was going to continue with his path, then it was going to be an offensive.
Perfect. Is responsible for the contact. Is okay.
Yes.
So start in a scholastic way. Situation with the ball, the same of before. Breaking distance is okay. Yes, is okay. And so the fact of the defensive player has moved, changed the situation, because they moved in a legal way, because they did it outside of breaking distance and they stopped. So the question is, there is enough space now to pass? No, because the defensive player has closed the gap. And so blue is not allowed to go in this direction because he cannot pass. And this is what happens really on the court, because if we start from here, I can pass. Yes, I can pass, but I'm playing basketball. They don't want me to let pass. And they are at the proper distance to make a good movement and stay in a legal defensive action. That is this. So everything is correct, Adam. Red and Forest close the gap. Gap is not more enough space to pass. And so blue must think about this. Blue must stop, and he has time and distance to make this, or change direction.
Yes.
This is the limit of the breaking area. And this is important. Every time we have to imagine where the breaking area ends, because in the real court, we have not the colors, we have not the lines, we have nothing. We have our way of thinking. And so we have to decide if blue is quick or not. If it's not, the line is here. He's quick, okay, he's here. But anyway, no space. And continue. Let's check this situation. And Youssef, do you want to try? Someone else, I don't know. Who is a volunteer to try this situation? Is there anybody alive and still alive, not annoyed by me? Okay.
In this situation,
Yeah, because Youssef is ready. Okay, let's do it. Do it this situation, please. So,
situation.
yes.
Okay, the blue has the ball. Is
Okay.
in this part.
Look at the ball.
The
Then,
blue. If there is any contact in this situation, if they have in his part, if there is any situation in this action, the read is responsible.
okay, because
There
this
is
is
no time and distance for
yes,
blue one to
this-
change his direction.
perfect. So second is the first question you must to think is, can blue pass through the opponents? Yes, because
Yes,
they have enough space to move. But they are moving, look at the arrow. But now, when I start my decision, I start asking to me, is it a situation with the ball? Yes, it is. Okay. Then, the gap is big enough? Yes. So, where is my breaking distance? Hey, my breaking distance is my right. So, nobody can enter here. So, if I am blue player, I go. And I go through. Because if they decide to move, I'm sure that they're late. And then they, because there are the arrows, they decide to move to close the gap. And this is what happens. And this is the situation we said before. So I don't know if I have a volunteer or not, but we can do it together if you want. I'm seeking for someone else, but I don't know. The Daike Sebo is there. Oh, so quiet. Okay, back to my friends. Youssef, again, what
Yes.
happens? What happens that
That
you
the
no
number
help.
number 4 and 7 don't give chance or they close the path and don't give a chance for blue sails to change his direction. 4 and 7 responsible for this contact.
Okay, because your assessment is they enter and they don't respect the braking area and don't give time and distance to change or stop, change direction or stop. Perfect. And the question is, hey, referee, they close the gap. You don't look at this. And so they close the gap. There's complete cover at the path. So they are right. No, sorry. Player versus player. So if you take the singular player, nobody of them, neither red 4 or 7 has covered the path of blue 6. Red 4 or red 6 cannot legally cover half path each. It's not legal to cover the path. So if you look, you can decide who make the first contact, number 7 or number red. But anyway, is not a legal guarding position and is a defensive player foul. Same situation, but what is different here? No ball. And if I have no ball, what is the difference? That the defensive player must take care about time or distance or not? What do you think? Nobody think?
Yes, they must.
You must. Are you sure? Situation without the ball. And not a crossing path situation that who cares if you have the ball or not. But just a situation of covering the path. So we said before, is legal who is first in his spot. So we have designed the braking area, but because blue 6 has no ball, who cares about the braking area of blue 6? So look at the theorems. Outside of braking distance, with or without ball, if the contact occurs, this opponent is responsible for the contact. And this is simple. If the contact occurs inside the braking distance, we have to make the difference between the opponent with the ball and the opponent without the ball. And the opponent with the ball, you must cover the path. The opponent without the ball, who cares about this? If red 4 arrives first here, his home. This is the new home of red 4. And the number 6, blue, cannot enter the home of red 4. But why? Because red 4 was quicker than blue to reach this point. And so he was first in the spot. Same of red. This is the difference between this situation and the situation before. That number blue has not, so no rights, has the same rights of the red, because neither the red has the ball. And so of red and blue are the same. And the rights are who arrives first in the position on the court. He designed his new spot. Who arrived in the spot has the right to stay in his home without any opponent to invade his home. So, in different terms, blue will be responsible of the contact if the defender is on the spot as first. Any questions? I think we spoke too much, but probably the questions are over because we spoke also making these questions and answer. But please, if you have question, we are here to answer. We are here to solve. No question? Okay, I have 2 minutes to introduce something. No, okay, Youssef with the open microphone, please. No, close, no question. Okay. Mahmoud, questions?
No, I don't have any questions, but I need to say thank you for this clear explanation.
You think that is over, but it's not over because Forrest is not here. And so I can add more in 2 minutes.
Yes, it's good. You can go ahead.
Okay, so basic principles. Please don't forget these 3. I close my friends because I'm looking faces now and I want to read with you. When both players are moving, player A must cover the path of player B before chair contacts occurs. But why? Because we are speaking about guarding player with the ball. Don't forget who has the ball. Or player A must give player B the proper time and distance to avoid chair contacts. This is fixed. We spoke about this last 2 hours, and this is fixed, is the first basic principle of concepts. Okay, and when the player with the ball is stationary, what can I do? I can stay as close as I possible, no matter if I am in the visual view or not of the opponent. The important is to be short of contact. So it means not evading the space occupied by the other player. This is the first basic principle. But we have one more basic principle, because we have to apply the same looking to the player who has not the ball. And so, in the same way, we think about a player that is moving stationary, or defender moves after being stationary. And so, when both players are moving, we must establish a legal position. How? Reaching the position before opponent. Remember, first in the spot. Easy to remember. First in the spot. Okay, but I don't want to be moving. I want to be stationary. Okay, it's the same with or without the ball. Because if he's stationary, he's not moving, and we have not to think about breaking area. So we can stay close as possible, short of contacts, without invading. Is the same with the ball or without the ball. So put in your mind, stationary, you can stay close as possible, as close as possible. Okay, and what happens if I am stationary and I decide to move? It's easy. I start another point of making decision for a referee. Because if it's a stationary defender reach a legal position, but then decide to move, hey, we have to start to making our decision from the beginning once again. And if you decide to move suddenly, take care, because if he moves into a breaking area of a moving opponent, is the example that we made before, when a player like a spider decide to cover, and he cannot do without giving to the opponent the opportunity to avoid the contact. Because if I am tipping and you are a stationary defensive player, I move and I'm in a comfort zone tipping, because I look at you that you are stationary and I go toward in my direction, also if I have no ball. But if you start from such a position to invade my breaking area, you must avoid this, because you must give me only in this situation from stationary to moving player. You have to give me the same respect, the same right, the same taking care of a player with the ball. So you cannot enter my breaking area. You must give me time and distance also in this situation. 1, 2, 3, screening. I can set the screener anywhere. The important is to be short of contact. So I can put my wheelchair closer to another one, but I must be stationary. No, sorry. The stationary is the opponent. So I can make a blocking situation, putting a screening against the stationary opponent, also close to the other wheelchair basket, short of contact. But if I do the screening on a moving opponent, or I cover the path, or I give time and distance to avoid the contact. So it seems similar, but every situation use the same to make different decisions for a referee. So take care looking player with the ball, player with not the ball, player that is acting a screening situation. Then this is the end of my starting principle of concepts presentation, but we miss Foster and we miss the act of shooting. So in 2 minutes we run. We have the difference between FIBA and IWBF, because of we can have also some situations that define the starting of the act of shooting that are different, related to FIBA situation, when we are more suited to referee, probably, because if we are both referee of standing, running basket and wheelchair, we have more opportunities to referee the running basketball situations. But we are in wheelchair basketball, and who cares about this? But we must fix what happens in wheelchair basketball. Wheelchair basketball, we have to define the shooting action, and the important is to understand when the shooting action begins, because we have some different way of making the shooting situation, but we need when the act of shooting starts, and which are the difference between the players that are making the shoot. So when the act of shooting begins, when the players, if he's a dribbler, stop dribbling and start the act of moving toward the basket with the player for making a shoot. This is easy, but we have different kind of players into wheelchair basketball. We have low point player that need to use the inertia of the act of shooting, also moving and also using the layup situation from the bottom to up, because they are not enough strong to make a shoot from above their head. And so if you look especially the 2 points player of the number one, they start the act of shooting, stopping dribbling, putting the ball on the lap and moving toward the basket, charging their movement from the bottom to use the inertia of the wheelchair that is driving, wheeling toward the basket to have more strength to their act of shooting. So when a player catch the ball from the dribble or from the pass and move to the basket in order to shoot, this is the start of act of shooting. And the immediate question is, but when the act of shooting ends? Because if we think once again to the players in running basket, we can have different kind of shoot, but we can think about the player that recovers his position on the court. If he made the jump, look, this definition. In the FIBA basketball, the act of shooting in FIBA basketball, when a player has jumped, the shoot continues until he lands again. In IWBF basketball, we have to take care about the regaining situation of balance. So what we have to think about? We have to think about who is making the shoot. If we have a high level player, we don't have to think too much, because the shoot begins with the player that start to making once we spoke about a cocking situation. That means that we grab the ball and take this in a stationary situation above our head, and then he decides to start the act of shooting, and the ball leaves the end of the hand of the player. This is not important in wheelchair basketball, that the ball leaves the hand of the player. We can consider the action started and continued before the basket. Also, if we have a situation with a player, in this case, that is contacted by the opponent when the ball is still in the end. But anyway, one step back, we need to understand who is making the shoot. If the shooter is a high player, we can assess then after the shoot, immediately the player regain the situation of balance. So the act of shooting is ended after the shoot was made. But we have a different situation. We have low point player that need to make this, and making this, recovering the ball, using the ball, the hand to make the layup, and moving to basket, look, catch, roll, act of shooting. When I do this, I cannot control my wheelchair. I'm not in a balanced situation, but I continue with my inertia of the wheelchair. I continue moving, and if I continue moving and the defensive player contact me in this moment, I need to consider this contact made during the act of shooting. So the result of the contacts has a different penalty, and it occurs in 2 or 3 penalty shot situation. Then look at this. We run, but we will do better in presence. Look at the sequence. He starts recovering the ball, the dribble. He needs to grab the ball from lining up to the shot, to the basket, and then shoot. This is still a situation of act of shooting until the player recover the balance situation. So, not going too much more, if regaining balance after the shot, it is only brief movement in some kind of players. But if the IWBF shooter is fouled while still off balance, this must be considered to be fouled during the act of shooting. This is part of the rules that we can do better in presence, and especially in the gym. Then after this, we can put our last attention when the arm is being held. So I try to give also this information. The arm of the player with the ball might be held by the defense. Look at this. So the player cannot shoot the ball, but anyway, he can make an attempt of shoot, because this player, we cannot see the red one very well, but here we have the red player that is grabbing the other arm, and so the player can anyway make the shoot situation. Take care, because this is an unsportsmanlike foul, but anyway they can make the act of shooting. So at the end, last but not least, we said before, it's not important to face the opponent to be in a legal situation, okay, but we can have a legal position and miss this legal position using an overstretching of the arm that invades the opponent cylinder. So take care of these situations, and be sure that you can understand where the cylinder starts and when the cylinder ends. This is for school, so is so clear that the defensive player is inside the opponent cylinder. And in this situation, he can stay, and without contact, we don't care about this invasion. But if a contact occurs, he is anyway always, every time, responsible. So a smart player look this, do the shoot, making the contact, and he's anyway responsible for this. After this, sorry, because we have to run, we are out of time for 15 minutes. I think we said everything we can do. So thank you for your time. Sorry to run too much, but we need, and I hope you enjoy this presentation. Mahmoud, I spoke too much,
many,
so it's your time.
No, never mind.